Please allow me to acknowledge the beautiful territories of the Tsleil-Waututh, Squamish, and Musqueam Nation on which our BCIT campus are sitting on. So always really very proud about working on these territories. I'm Caroline Depatie, the Associate Dean for Business Administration, School of Business and Media, and along with Alicia Gardner, who's the Business Administrative Assistant in Business Administration, will be your host today. Throughout this session, if you have questions at any time, write them in the Q&A at the bottom. We'll use the chat just for one little thing, but if you do have questions, put them in the Q&A at the bottom and we'll do our best to answer. Really, this webinar series is really there to help you be more successful in your studies. They're primarily for new students, although returning students, or if you've already taken courses, you're more than welcome to attend, and there will be some really valuable information. We've been running these on Monday, Tuesday night. Tuesday mostly are targeted at PTS students. So I'm just gonna take a little poll here, and I know there's, it's just gonna be a few of you answering. But how many of you have attended, and maybe Alicia, if you want to put the question up, I just want to know how many sessions you guys have attended. This is the 4th one. So have you attended 1, 2, 3, 4, including today? So if you're just your first time, you can just write 1. So if you can vote on that, again, with the few people that we have attending today, that would be wonderful. Host and panelists cannot vote. Yes. Do you have to press
attendees? We really need some votes here.
Yeah, Alicia, is there something you have to do to make sure that people can vote?
They're voting.
Oh, they're voting. Oh, you have to look. You have to press on. We can see it. That's okay. You can wait. Usually, we see people fill it out.
Yeah.
Oh, I just hit launch. Maybe it's a background setting.
Yes.
There's usually a view.
Maybe it's
view as it's going on.
Hosts.
Press.
There you are. Hold on.
Okay. Yes, there we go.
Okay, there we go.
One of you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So good to see that a few of you have attended a few times. So that's been really great. So I'm just gonna close this. So that's wonderful, and welcome. That I think one person is their first time, so welcome. It's awesome. Your facilitator today is Charlotte Culver. Charlotte, you can give us a wave. Perfect. Charlotte's an instructor in Business Administration Department. She's been with BCIT over 20 years, so wealth of knowledge, has taught in PTS, so knows a lot. Has been a program head, so definitely a good person to ask questions. She'll be joining us with 6 guests, 3 graduate and 3 current students, who will all talk about their experience about either working online and teamwork, or working in a course, and how does the virtual teamwork looks like. I will remind you at the end, but next session is Tuesday, August 11th. We're skipping next week, and we're going to talk about developing a study routine for online learning, one you don't want to miss for sure. So I think I'm going to leave it at that, and Charlotte, off to you. If you have questions, Q&A.
All right. Thank you very much, Carolyn. Okay, everyone, I'm going to share my screen. So we're going to just change the look of your screen here for a minute. There we go. Okay, so right now, there we go. I'm all excited. We're going to talk about virtual teams. Teams is something near and dear to my heart. And anybody who has gone to BCIT in the School of Business, I've only been involved in the School of Business, so I can only talk about that. But boy, have you been involved in teams. And if you didn't know about the little inside joke, BCIT can stand for being crammed into teams. So here we go. First thing, just curiosity on my part, I want to know what course you're enrolled in. So use your chat bar, go to the bottom of your screen, there's a chat bar. Could you please just give us, I don't know, if you're enrolled in more than one, just give me your favorite one maybe. Give me something that you're enrolled in right now. I'm just curious on what people are enrolled in, just so we know a little bit more about you. There we go. Now, somebody tell me. I can't see. Carolyn, can you see? Is anybody typing in Why can I not see my chat?
Yeah, you can, Charlotte, you can't see the chat when you share a document. So we have, employment law, OPMT 1142. I'm not sure what that course is. Taxation 2, project management essentials.
Okay.
Yeah, so those are the types. So yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, those are brilliant courses. All right. Thank you very much, Carolyn. All right. Those are great courses. You're going to have a good term. Okay, so all of those courses, everything that Carolyn just ran off, you're going to be in a team. I am almost 100% sure. So away we go. This is what we're going to do in the webinar. We're going to bring in 3 grads, alumni, and they're going to talk to you about their experience working virtually. So working virtually, working in a team virtually, and what life is like. I'm going to talk about 3 things that I think are critical to think about within teams, and that is coming out of both research and my experience with student teams. So we're going to go through 3 secrets to success, and then I have the pleasure of having Harveen, Alvin, and John here, our BCIT students going into 2nd year, and they are going to tell us about their experience on virtual teams. They started their program on a face-to-face basis, and guess what? March 15th, they went into the online teaching. And so these students are going to tell you what their world is like from a student perspective. All right, here we go. My 3 panelists, I'm excited. Jacob, Richard, and Katie. I'm going to hand it right over. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we're going to just bring in the panelists. And all 3 of these people have graduated with a diploma from BCIT. I think all 3 maybe have done BBA. I'm not sure. They'll correct me on that. And they are busy working. So I will stop sharing my screen right now as soon as I get my fingers all organized here. There we go. And Jacob, Richard, and Katie, if you would put your video on and we get to see your beautiful faces. There we go. All right. Jacob, why don't you start us off? Tell us what life is like in the virtual world.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Charlotte. Yeah, so I guess I'll kick the alumni panel off. Hello, everyone. Yeah, just I guess when thinking about virtual teams in the workplace, obviously your mind goes towards our current situation, the pandemic. For me, I'm in the retail industry, so I work for Best Buy Canada. And it's been super eye-opening just to see how everybody's been able to really shift towards virtual teams. You know, especially in an industry that I like to say is very rooted and has its deep connection to face-to-face and in-person interaction. But really, the more I think about it, I'd like to say that virtual teams has been so important even before this pandemic even began. I'd like to say much more so now than when I was in school at BCIT starting in 2011, and when I graduated in the workforce in 2014. Best Buy itself as a company, as an example, we've piloted a work from home program that allows us to work 2 times a week from home. But really, even when we did work in the office, a lot of our work was done virtually. Myself personally, as a reporting analyst for Consumer Insights, I work with a ton of different teams: the e-commerce team, retail team, Geek Squad team, contact center teams, every team, and provide them with as much data as they need. And in order to do that, my job efficiently, I rely a lot on things like Microsoft Teams to communicate. We use project management tools like Jira or Confluence to provide visibility towards what we're working on. So it's definitely a really big part of my job for sure. And it's a lot more efficient working virtually than walking across an entire office to talk to somebody I might need to work with. And in a lot of cases, just because we're so spread out, there are 1,000 employees in our head office. We have a ton of people working in our stores and third-party vendors. It's not possible to talk to somebody in person. So a lot of this work, really does happen, virtually. And I think all of this has been able to let us transition into this new normal relatively easily. over the past 4 months, we've had a ton of curveballs thrown our way, as with, I'm sure, everybody's experience. But we've had to change, the questions that we ask our customers. What data do our stakeholders, decision makers, what do they want to see? How do we ask these questions to the customers as well, and how we present our findings? So a lot's changed for sure in the span of the 4 months. We've done everything virtually, which is, I'd like to say it's a bit crazy because it's all new to us. But I think it's been really positive. There are obviously pros and cons to this virtual team environment. You have to really work at building connections, maintaining that kind of emotional connection that you have with your coworkers and to your job. But I like to say that, this has definitely expedited the shift towards virtual teams in the future. It'll 100% impact the working environment that you guys graduate in. I know you guys are part-time study students, so you're probably already experiencing this if you do have day jobs as well. So definitely a crazy experience, and I know my fellow panelists and second-year students have a lot of their experiences to share as well. So I think with that, I'm going to pass it off to Richard, who's next up.
Thanks. Hey, I'm Richard. I work at Bench Accounting, and I'm on our partnerships team, and I take care of partner marketing. So what that means is working with our other partner systems to share leads for our sales reps, and doing go-to-market strategies and content management between our teams for education. Bench is bookkeeping for small businesses. So we're a SaaS company. All of our clients are based in the States. Our head office is here. And since I work on a partnerships team, the majority of my day I'm interacting with people who aren't part of my organization. So I was kind of used to virtual work already. I used to go into the office every day, work from home maybe once or twice a month, but now it's home every day. So I was sort of half working virtually. So the biggest shift was just like not leaving my house. Yeah, like I find virtual work, it can make it easier to get some things done. You're not like wasting time going from meeting to meeting, and you won't be going from classroom to classroom. I find it easier to get campaigns done with partner services, just if everyone's already set up and used to working virtually. Hasn't been a massive shift. A couple weeks ago, I worked on a campaign with Square. So they're like that white plasticky chip payment receiver. So I worked with them. We did a couple webinars. We did some content exchanges, did a couple Q&A sessions. None of that would have been possible to do it like if we weren't all virtual. And I think a lot of that, like that opportunity was inspired by the virtual world that we're now all working in. Yeah, it'll definitely be an interesting experience for you guys working and going to school all virtually. Definitely to reiterate what Jacob said, do your best to like get to know your classmates as best as you can, because it's definitely easier to get work done when you like know people. You can be a little more like casual, but still professional and structured. But it's just like a friendlier face. It kind of makes things a bit easier to get them done. And also definitely monitor all your projects in process with some sort of project management software. Like I wouldn't be able to do any of my work without one. I'm working across like 3 or 4 teams internally at Bench, and anytime I'm working with 15 to 20 different like technology companies, every project and campaign is at a different point in time, which is really similar to how school goes. So definitely find a project management system that you and your team like to use and stick to it, so you can get the most out of your meetings and like have bigger, deeper, more meaningful conversations instead of just giving a status update. That is the insights and advice that I have for you today.
Okay.
And it's Katie's turn.
Thanks, Richard. So as Charlotte mentioned, I am an operations coordinator for a small local company called Hillsound Equipment. So in that role, going from working in office every day to working from home, obviously it was a bit of a shift. However, my workflow didn't really change that much, just given that we are a really small company. So there's not that much day-to-day interaction with my team members. However, that being said, at the beginning of the pandemic, right before everything was kind of shutting down, I actually also was hired into a part-time contract job with a company called Bumble. And so I feel like that position is a lot more relevant or applicable to the situation that you'll be in as a new student going into BCIT, because you likely won't know that many people in your class, if any. So in that role, like I mentioned, I know anyone. I kind of knew two of the girls I was working with, but we had never worked on a team closely. I didn't know my manager, etc. So going into that, we were always working on a common deliverable each month. So although we had our separate tasks, we still did need to find ways to collaborate and work together. So what we found was really important right off the bat was setting up a way so that we can stay in touch on a day-to-day basis, just given that we won't be seeing each other like in an office. So one way that we did that successfully was we set up a WhatsApp group right away. So I would definitely recommend doing that with any team members that you're on. And in addition, anytime that we did need to meet together, we always tried to set our meetings a few days in advance, just because, you know, we were all working in 2 different jobs, so we're really busy, and that will also be similar to you guys. I know part-time students often work and go to school at the same time, so it's really important to try to plan your meetings in advance, just so, you know, everyone has time to prepare. And lastly, something we found that was really important going into those meetings was setting up an agenda. So what we actually used was a shared Google document. So we would kind of just share an outline, and then everyone would write down their notes for what they wanted to talk about for that upcoming meeting. And we found that to be really helpful, just because it's very easy to kind of go off track when you're just meeting over Zoom or whatever platform that may be. So those are some ways that we found effective to manage working virtually when we didn't really know each other's work habits all that well. But also I'd like to echo something that Richard mentioned, which was taking the time to get to know people, because like he said, like, you know, when you're in like a stressful work situation or whatever it may be, it's a lot easier to know who you're working with, and it takes off a lot of the pressure. So whether that be just like setting aside 5 minutes at the beginning of your meeting just to be like, hey, how's your day going? Something like that, we found was really helpful in just getting to know each other. Yeah, that was kind of my work from home and virtual team experience so far.
That's all 3 of you. It's such an interesting idea. First of all, I want to mention now is a good time. If anybody has a question, go ahead in the Q&A and go ahead, type in your question. And this is a good time for if you have questions for the panelists. I'm thinking all of you have mentioned that connection between, yes, you need to be very, very organized. Yes, you need to be focused. But at the same time, you've also mentioned, oh, but you need to still be able to see these people as people. And I'm wondering about that balance. How do you keep that balance? How do you not end up just being friends or virtual chit-chat buddies? Or how do you not just, you know, let's get this done, let's drive it, and I want to go home? Like, how do you keep that balance in there? Anybody?
My team, like, we use Slack for all of our work communication. We have like a channel that, like, we have a regular team channel where we, just like a regular team update, like this meeting, this document. We have a specific channel that's labeled fun. So we like share like fun updates, like memes, like songs that we're listening to, like jokes, just anything that's not super duper work related. It just kind of helps us, like, because we're not like at our little like desks and like cracking jokes or just like chatting. We do that. We have a team check-in every morning.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we have a team check-in every morning. Like, some nights we're talking about really big strategic things. Sometimes we're talking about like what we had for dinner. I don't think you're going to want to have like a every morning meeting, but potentially like at the beginning of the semester, it might be good just to have like a first meeting set up that's like purely social to get to know each other. So you just like build a little bit of that rapport and like start your conversations with like 5 minutes of like, hi, how are you? How's it going?
Okay. Jacob, you had something to say?
Yeah, no, I agree with Richard for sure. We're the same. We have a morning meeting maybe 3 times a week, not quite every day. But we do have a WhatsApp group separate from our Microsoft Teams chat that is more so personal life. It really helps though that we kind of we know each other. So we've met each other in person, which might be a little bit more challenging. And might be something that you guys would need to overcome as part-time students coming in and meeting everybody new for the first time. Richard's kind of suggestion there in terms of like maybe starting off with a bit of a social kind of activity would definitely probably be a bit helpful as well. But yeah, no, it's a lot easier for us having that WhatsApp group, having kind of virtual happy hours on Fridays to kind of maintain that kind of that emotional connection with your team members and your friends at work.
All right, interesting. Katie, do you do anything? I'm finding the morning meeting interesting. Katie, do you do anything other than your WhatsApp group for the friendly part?
Well, for my full-time job, so at Hillsound, we have a weekly morning meeting on Mondays. So what we do at the beginning of that meeting is everyone takes like 2 minutes and we share like what we did over the weekend. So that's one way that I find really good to get to know each other, because you find out what people like to do in their spare time. So that's one thing that we do. And then also similar to what Jacob was saying, we had like some virtual events. So we had like virtual happy hours, and we had like virtual like yoga sessions sometimes. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of ways that you can stay connected virtually, but I think it's just important, especially if you're, you know, on a part-time studies program, you're not going to be spending that much time with your team. So I guess it would be important just to like limit or set like specific times when you will be doing the more social tasks.
Yeah,
I think, yeah, go ahead, Richard.
Oh yeah, just like Katie said, definitely like have an agenda for your meetings, like have it as part of your agenda, maybe open the meeting with that 10 minutes, whatever works for you, to like build the relationships.
I think that's intriguing. I think that it's intriguing that I hear it from 3 very different companies. You're very different focuses in your company, and yet all of you have said you need to be organized, but you also need to have some fun. Did you really do a group yoga, Katie?
Yeah, we actually did. It was like we all, it was one of my mentors like projected her screen and we watched like a YouTube yoga video, and yeah, we all did it. It's pretty fun.
Is that right? Oh, that's great. Yeah. Okay, so we got yoga, we got happy hour. Any other common fun activities that you've done? Anybody?
We've had Smash Bros tournaments. We've done that. We're a bigger team. Like the consumer insights team is a bit smaller, but then we roll up to the same director, and there are a bunch of us with Nintendo Switches. So we've set that up, but that's more after hours, lunchtime type thing.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. All right. We're going to move on. I'm going to say thank you. Thank you to all 3 of you, Jacob, Katie, and Richard. I so much appreciate the window, pardon the pun, but the window onto your world. It really is insightful to see the commonalities from very different worlds. I think that's so intriguing, and I thank you very much for letting us hear your stories. Thank you very much. Just before we go, anybody have any questions? Your last chance to ask questions to the alumni. Anybody? There we go. I'm going to just move on. All right. Thank you very much. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen, if that's all right. There we go. Okay. So right now, I'm assuming that you can see my screen again, and we'll go from there. I am going to hop to this screen. Okay, and that's a bit awkward. You can't actually see it. There we go. I'm going to talk for just a few short minutes on the 3 things that I have learned listening to students through many years, as Carolyn has mentioned, about teams, whether they're virtual or not, but this has come to play a lot in the last year or so when we talk about virtual teams, and it's trust, communication, and technology. And you'll hear repetition of what we've just heard from our graduate teams, our graduate guests, sorry. First, trust. I need everyone to understand that when you start your team, everybody assumes that you are trustworthy. It's an interesting thing, and research has found this out and backed this up many times, that you start with positive expectations for each other. Very seldom do people go into a team and say, oh, I know you're not going to come through. They go into that team and they say, we trust each other. What that does is it paves the road for great positive expectations. But the downside is, if you break that trust, it is almost impossible to build it up again. So build on the positive trust that you and your fellow team members will have with each other, but be honest. If you can't meet on Tuesday at 3 o'clock, don't agree to meet on Tuesday at 3 o'clock. It's really important that you are honest and build on the positive expectation of your team members. Next one, and this is a fairly big one, and it's a big category, it's communication. And I'm just going to repeat really what Jacob, Richard, and Katie have already told us. But that communication, you need both the process. Richard talked about the agenda. We talk about how many times a week do you meet. You talk about what is my team expecting from me. The process of your team, plus it is getting to know each other. You don't have to be best friends, but you do need to see each other as people, not just handing out tasks, coming back, putting it together, and on we go. So the communication is both the process. How many times are we going to meet? How are we going to work together? What's our expectation of each other? As well as, who are you? Who am I working with? What kind of a person is this that I'm working with? And again, I'm really encouraging you, be as honest as you can, because that means that your team members will work better with you. That's the communication. And the last of the 3 is obviously the technology. And there is no right or wrong in technology. You need to understand from your team members what they are comfortable with. Not everybody will have access to the same hardware, the same software that you do. What platforms do they really want to use? A WhatsApp group, or do they want to use Facebook? Do they want to use something else? Do they want to use a project management software, or do they want to use Google Docs and just leave it at that? So you need to be clear with each other on expectations there. Just out of curiosity, and it's something that I would ask if I was in a team right away, just how much time do I expect to use with this team? Alicia, we have a poll, and maybe we can just put that poll up now. And again, it's going to happen, let's see, I'm going to stop sharing so I can see the poll. And Alicia, if you can put that poll up and we can see, the question is, how much time do you expect to spend with your virtual team every week? And I'm just going to ask my attendees, what do you expect in every week? Do you expect, okay, we've got one person who expects more than 4 hours every week with their virtual team. That's a really interesting answer. 2 of you expect that. Wow. Anybody else? We got a couple more people that are attending. There we go. 4 hours, 2 hours. Okay. All right. So the interesting thing is here, folks, there is no wrong answer and there's no right answer. What you really have to do is figure out the people that I'm in this team with, what can we agree on? And that's more important than the right answer. So it is more important that you're honest with each other and that you agree. And then if you want to trust each other, that you come through with what you agree. Don't agree to more than 4 hours if your working life won't allow it. So you need to be, again, honest with your team members so that they can trust you that you're going to come through with whatever the agreement is. All right, nice. Thank you for answering that. Okay, I am going to just back and forth here. I'm going to share my screen one more time. Is this where I am? Yep. There we go. All right, so 3 things. Nice, easy number. Trust. The biggest thing there is, remember, you go into positive trust with a team. Don't mess it up. Be honest with each other. Communication. It is both the process, the agenda, the weekly meeting, the whatever platform, the expectations. It is also the communication of who are you. Get to know them a little bit. And lastly, it's the third thing in the technology, and you have to agree on what kind of platforms are you going to use. All right. The next thing we're going to do, and I'm quite excited about this, is we're going to get Harveen, Alvin, and Dion. I'm going to turn off my screen, and we're going to get these 3 people who are going into the 2nd year of their diploma. And they're going to tell us a little bit about what it was like to go from face-to-face to online learning and what it was like to live in that virtual team. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. There we go. Hello, Harveen. Welcome here. There's Alvin, and we just need Dion. There we are. Great. Okay, so Harveen, if I can get you to start us off.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay. So, hi guys, my name is Harveen Kinda. When BCIT transitioned to virtual classes, I can say it was a bit different in the start, but however, through transitioning to online classes, it was getting a bit easier after a bit. The one main thing I was struggling with was that I won't have the right communication with any of the teachers anymore. For example, if I want to discuss an assignment or my grade, I thought it would be harder to get a hold of my teachers. However, this wasn't really the case at all. All the instructors were really supportive and responsive. During our online labs, our instructors would answer our questions in the best possible way they could, and they were willing to meet separately online to discuss any other questions a student may have. Not gonna lie, this was my biggest relief because communication is really important, and if you don't communicate with your instructors, you won't really know how assignments and projects will be marked, and if you can even redo any work. Also, you're just gonna have to rely on figuring things out yourself if you don't know anyone in the class. So that being said, communicating with classmates is also essential because that way you can also help each other out whenever needed. One more thing that I would like to share with you all is one of my experiences in a virtual project. So when it came to virtual projects, I did have this one group of 4 people with one of the members barely being present. And the member only showed up sometimes to our online meetings that were done on Zoom. This really did weigh down on our group a lot because it did get confusing at times on how to split the work because of that individual. However, we did have a group chat on WhatsApp for this project with us 4 members. And that's where we communicated with that individual and sent out a small warning. But right when we thought things were getting better, everything started going downhill again. So after contacting our instructors a second time regarding the team member, the person was officially removed from our group, which was a relief. After this, the communication between us remaining 3 members was consistent and effective. And we kept ourselves updated mostly from WhatsApp and emails. We didn't let this one group member slow us down. And that's really important. So to create an effective group, scheduling regular meetings and having clean and detailed deliverables with the group also will help you succeed in your projects. And this is the key for group work. And now I'd like to introduce Alvin that will be speaking next.
All right, hey guys, so as you hear from Harveen, I'm Alvin. First off, I'd like to say pretty much the virtual team experience definitely going to be way more independent than you actually going physically to school. Honestly, there's not much for me to say. Like all the alumni and even Harveen covered pretty much everything, even Charlotte about communication, about making an agenda, about getting to know each other, making a WhatsApp group chat. It's all been applied to my virtual experience already, and we've all already done those kind of things. So definitely keep that a note. That's definitely something important. One thing I think I'd like to add on right now is definitely in your virtual team experiences, probably in school, check up on some of your group mates, because you're not physically there. You don't really know how they're feeling. You don't know what they're doing. It's good to just, keep a tab pretty much on some of your teammates, just to see how they're doing. If one of them is slacking and that puts you guys a week behind, it's definitely going to be kind of a nuisance. So it's definitely always good to just kind of just make sure that everyone's doing okay, and getting to know each other is definitely important. Like, you're most likely, you would rather work for someone you know or like than rather for someone you don't know at all. And it's just kind of a different experience when you're just handing out assignments and then just coming back not knowing each other. That's definitely one of the ways I kept my motivation up. Was from the support pretty much of each of the members. It's like, you don't feel alone in this kind of thing. Like, you feel like you got the support and feel like you have the help pretty much, especially from our teachers too. As Harveen said, the teachers are very helpful. You'll always have time to pretty much be able to communicate with everyone, and you will have that chance. But that's pretty much really all I had to say. Everyone's already covered everything that I've had to say, so I'm just going to pass it on to pretty much the next speaker, Dion.
Thank you. So hi everyone, my name is Dion, and I'm going into second year for the Human Resource Program. For me, working in teams at BCIT, I was really lucky to start my first semester and then the first half of my second semester doing face-to-face work. So I was really blessed to be able to build that rapport with my fellow students and kind of get that trust and communication work through and built through that time. So I was really lucky going into the second semester when everything happened and quarantine started and we were going fully virtual. It was really easy to build off of that foundation that I had already made it. But for you guys, it will be a little bit more difficult to build that sort of trust and communication, since you most likely won't be able to see each other in person. What I would recommend for that is pretty much what everyone else has been saying, is to have informal times, keep your first meeting informal, get to know each other, build that trust, build communication sort of lines, have WhatsApp groups, and just get more comfortable speaking with each other and being able to reach out if you're having a hard time. Another thing that I learned from working in virtual teams is to keep your technology really organized. We had Google Drives, we had folders that were shared. Pretty much any work that you did, you could see on the edits. So it helps put a face to who's doing the work, as well as keeping meeting minutes if possible, if that's recommended in your course or if it's required in your coursework. Definitely do that. It also helps to keep calendar alerts and keep your meetings very structured as well. And the last thing that I learned is to try to build a routine around your meeting times, how long it's going to be, set an agenda if possible. And I know most of you are all of you are in part-time studies. So some of you may be working shift work. So in that first meeting, it's good to communicate what you're able to do. If you can't have a set meeting time every week, try to give as much notice as possible. But that's something to discuss with your team. So that's pretty much all that I learned working in virtual teams. Hope that helped a little bit.
Okay. Nice. I find it intriguing. Dion, you just mentioned Google Docs. Was there any particular technology, Alvin and Harveen, that you used that that helped you aside from the shared Google Docs?
Like technology, you mean like other kind of ways to communicate?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, not like I guess for PowerPoint, there was a I forgot what it's called, but it was something like Google Docs, but it's for PowerPoint.
Okay.
I mean, majority of our communication comes from WhatsApp too. So
Okay.
Again, Google Docs is really just for the outline of the work and kind of like to delegate who needs to do what and who can do what, and just to outline like what Katie said pretty much.
Okay. All right. Harveen, did you use any other technology? hardware?
It was WhatsApp and just Google Docs. We did use Skype for, I think, one of our projects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's about it.
Okay. And that brings another one. For most of your meetings, were you on Skype or Zoom, or what were you using?
I was using Skype for 2 projects, and for the other ones, I was using Zoom. So it was kind of like split.
Okay. All right. Dion, Alvin, what were you using actually for your meetings? Were you using Skype and Zoom, or were they just using Google Docs and no video?
I use mostly Zoom. I wasn't able to set up my Skype account.
Uh-huh.
It was being kind of glitchy on my computer, so we just ended up doing Zoom.
Okay, yeah.
Pretty much majority of the time Zoom. I had one project for Skype, but I think I prefer Zoom. Honestly, it's just something that you get used to since pretty much the majority of everyone just uses Zoom at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. Is there anything that you would recommend? I mean, these people with part-time studies, as you have already heard, it's kind of scary to start a group, start a project with people you just simply don't know. And you never are going to meet them face to face. I mean, other than spending 5 minutes saying hello, what else are we going to do? Any ideas?
I think other than BCIT having a reputation for like kind of killing you with work, I don't think a lot of people talk about this, and even I didn't really know about this, but it has a pretty good community. Like compared to a lot of other schools, BCIT has a pretty tight community. So I think you even if it's virtual, even if it's online, you'll probably still get a lot of chances to talk with your talk with their classmates. Generally, maybe someone in the class will host something for like a classroom WhatsApp group, so everyone can get to know each other. But
that's a good idea.
Yeah, but I'd say like overall BCIT community is pretty tight, so there's nothing to be worried about with like you not liking anyone or you not being able to communicate with anyone. You know, everyone's like that everyone came to the school for like to focus pretty much. So like it's okay in that aspect.
All right. Dion, Harveen, any ideas from you? How do you jump in?
Alvin said.
No.
I play with my friends on Discord. We do Jackbox. It's kind of just like random party games. So if anyone has that, it's fun because you can like funny quips and stuff. But yeah, I mean setting up events like the alumni said, doing happy hours is fun, or kind of organizing some events to have icebreakers is good.
Okay, cool. I do have a question on the chat box, actually, or chat bar. How do you stay motivated? That is hard. There you are. It's halfway through the term. The course is overwhelming, and you need to study your own stuff. That final exam is looming up in the future, and you've got this student project hanging off to the side. How do you stay motivated to keep working on that project? Any ideas?
For me, I think it's just having a good group. That just kind of what motivates me. And I feel like that's really essential if you have a good group and you just communicate with each other. That way you can get your work done as fast as possible and then work on the other assignments.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so pretty much, it's just pretty much what Harveen said. Throughout your time at BCIT, you're going to struggle with kind of just getting to know if you're doing the right thing or not. But it's kind of your friends that are there to support you and kind of like just give you that backbone pretty much for you to push on. Honestly, like for me, it wasn't even like, oh, I want to get a job, oh, I want to get good grades. Like that wasn't motivation for me. It was honestly all my friends, like them helping me out and me helping them out. It felt like it was a good community, and like I wanted to be able to work and stay with them, and I wanted to be able to show like that they can trust me and that I can also help them pretty much. So that was like one of the biggest motivations for me.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say for me personally, going into quarantine, it kind of a not very frequently talked about thing is the mental health aspect. Kind of the feeling of, not being able to do many things and feeling a little bit cut off can be really demotivating. What helped me was just planning out my days and splitting up the work to make it a little bit more manageable helped. Since at BCIT you will be doing, well, some people will be doing a lot of work. There's a lot of group work with part-time studies. But yeah, there's counseling services at BCIT. There's a really good infrastructure network of support at BCIT if you're feeling that way. But I'd say just try to stay on top of things and be as organized as possible.
Good points. Harveen, I'm going to actually ask this question to you. It's again on the chat, because you had the story about losing a team member. The question is, what if trust gets broken for some reason inside your group? I mean, it sounded like the one team member wasn't doing well. You talked to the person, they sounded like they were coming back, and then kind of fell apart. Any ideas on, or even just what you did to get that trust back, and then any ideas on what you could have done just looking back at it?
I think it was communication. Like, even if things are going downhill, to still keep communicating and asking what's wrong, because sometimes there's something going on in the person's life or something, and you don't really know. And if things still keep going downhill, the best thing is, as Caroline said in the group chat, that you should just talk to your instructor for advice, because at that point only the instructor can know what to really do.
Yeah. No, I love that you say often there's something else going on in somebody's life, and you know, this project is important, but it's a small thing compared to what else is going on somewhere else in their life. But you've got to be trusting enough to tell your group members that is going on. And if you don't, obviously your group members are just thinking that you're not working. Yeah. Interesting. Alvin, Dion, did you have any comments about breaking trust with team members?
I mean, I literally had a member in my team just drop out without saying a word. And that really put us behind. But for I'd rather talk more about the people, because you can't really do about the person who just drops out with no word. So I'd rather talk about pretty much the people who slacked off. I understand it's important to get to know each other and be friends with each other, but it's also important to know, like, when to be firm, you know, like you gotta let them know too, like, we need this done by like this time. You can't really just let things slide sometimes. After all, this does affect everyone in the group when someone slacks. So I think one important thing for trust is, if someone does slack and someone does break that trust, just give them a chance, I guess, first. Like, be more firm with things. And if it continues to go downhill, that's when you should probably just contact the instructor and ask them to see what we can do and how we can work this out.
Okay, good. Dion, any other words of wisdom?
I agree with both points. I think Harveen made a really good point with there's something usually going on outside of schoolwork. So I think it's really good to stay optimistic and keep that communication line open. And then kind of going back to Alvin as well, it's really good to set expectations for the work that you've delegated to them. And, you know, after the fact, if that trust is broken, you can give them the expectation of work and then say, if this expectation isn't met, then this is what the consequence will be. And then in BCIT, there's usually a team charter involved, which outlines the expectations. You'll all sign it and agree to the terms, so you can enforce that if need be. So I think that's a good thing to keep in mind as well.
All right, thank you. Those are great comments from all three of you. I think that at this point, we're going to say thank you to the three of you. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your honesty in sharing your experiences. Student teams they're hard. They're hard. You are trusting these people, and at this point, you're in teams with people you don't know, and so you have to work real hard to get to know them, to figure out how to work together. I think it's a big ask. So thank you for sharing your insights on that. We'll leave it at that. I think I'm going to hand it back to Carolyn at this point. We've had a really good conversation about how to work with teams, virtual or otherwise. I think my biggest takeaway, I'm going to go back to Katie's and do virtual yoga. I'm going to see if I can figure out a virtual yoga break in my class. That's going to be I'll see if I can weave that into this fall's class somehow. Anyways, we've had fun, and I appreciate all of you, both the alumni and the students, in making the time for us tonight and for your insights. Thank you very, very much. Carolyn, it's all yours. We can't hear you. There we go. No. There.
Okay,
Yep.
sorry,
There
I was pressing, I was too vigorous with my pressing,
Yes,
and I
yes,
double pressed.
double dose.
Anyway, thank you, everybody. If there's a last minute question in the Q&A from our attendees, please feel free to write them. I just really want to thank you, Charlotte, and grads and students that participated in this webinar. It's so great to have lots of us there sharing our experiences. So it was really, again, thank you so much. And I know it's a busy summer and it's hot, so being in front of the computer. So appreciate everybody and the attendees coming. So I think I'm going to leave it at that. Doesn't seem to be any more questions. So don't forget, August 11th is our next webinar. We're skipping next week because it's a long weekend, and then we just wanted to take a bit of a break because there's 8 sessions. We've done 4. Then we're going to go with our last 4 in August. So next one is, what's your routine? Developing good habits from time management. I know we've talked about it in some of the webinars, so we're going to repeat some stuff, but Morgan Westcott, who's our AD for marketing management, is going to be there with students, and they're going to share how they manage their time with online classes. So I think that's going to be a really good webinar. It's going to be hard to beat this one because this one was really good as well. So thank you so much. Make sure you tell your classmates to attend these. We'd love to have more PTS students join in. Again, these are for you so that you are successful. They can watch the recording later. And then from Charlotte, Alicia, and all our guests today, I just really want to wish you a great evening. Thank you for attending. Be kind, stay safe, stay healthy, be kind to yourself and others, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.